Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Planet Film Network. Welcome back to another episode of PFN Live. I am one of your hosts, Sean Monk.
And I'm your other host, TJ Cornwell.
And today we are going through a whole bunch of stuff. We got some news topics to go over. We got some what have we been watching to go over. A new entry in the Spunk has arrived in cinemas nationwide. The Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters, of course. Couple more things to talk about that we've been watching, some TV that we've been watching, one show in particular, which if you've clicked on the video tonight, you guys know we are going to be diving in. Probably the very last thing. If you're not going to watch the show or whatever, we are going to spoil it, but if you're going to watch it, maybe tune out. If not, honestly, just join us for the discussion because it's a very deep show and I don't know how many people are going to finish it. Maybe if anybody out there that's watching this has started it and not finished it. I've seen a lot of people saying that they fell off, so we'll talk all about True Detective Night Country towards the end of the show. But before that, we got a lot of news to break down, some reviews to break down, and it's been a big Marvel week as well. I don't even know if Fantastic Four. Yeah, that broke on Wednesday, so we got to even talk about that.
The day after,
yeah. I didn't even think about that. We got to talk Fantastic Four, too. First and foremost, how have you been? What have you been up to? What's been new?
Nothing much, honestly. Watched a couple of movies, took out a few new ones from the library. After I finished up like the most recent batch, if you want to call it that. Obviously finished True Detective, and then I started.
Can I hit you with a little breaking news? Get your immediate reaction here. You want to hit it? You want to hit a little vertical there?
Yeah.
All right. So TJ, I know this is close to your heart, close to both of our hearts, and close to the centerpiece of the original idea of this channel, and that is Bong Hive. Bong Joon-ho's next film, Mickey 17, which for I believe about 4 months now has been pulled and undated from the release chart. I want to get your thoughts on this. Mickey 17 will now release theatrically January 31st, 2025. So not going to be hitting at Cannes, not going to be hitting at TIFF. That is weird. We thought best case scenario it was being moved off so that it could be positioned maybe September, October for awards. January 31st, I don't know if that gives me a lot of confidence. What do you think is behind this move?
I think maybe it was a scheduling thing, because what was it originally? Do you remember?
Originally it was March. It was like next week.
Oh, it was next. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's, I feel like it's kind of been in production / post-production for a while.
It's also a movie that they started filming during the height of the pandemic and have just had delay after delay. So
right, and obviously everybody's really hyped, especially after all those Oscar wins for Parasite. Everybody's hyped for Bong Joon-ho's next movie. So I'm obviously very much looking forward to it. It sucks that it got pushed, but this will definitely, allow them to do a lot more marketing for it. But I will say, like, I don't know how I feel about dumping it at the end of January. I feel like, obviously I don't know what type of movie it is. I'm pretty sure there's probably like a description out there of what the summary of the plot is or the story. But yeah, it's interesting to see what is coming out around that time next year.
Yeah.
If there's anything like big around that time at all, probably not, right? I have to imagine.
I would imagine
you don't want to move it out of the way of a bunch of other things because, it's obviously a lot of people saw Parasite. A lot of people that probably wouldn't have watched, a movie that's subtitled, saw it. So it gained a lot of, traction and stuff like that. But, if it comes out next to like a new DC movie or anything, like one of those, bigger tentpole movies, I'm going to guess.
Oh, you know what? Off the top of my head that I just remembered, it's Captain America. Captain America has that 2025 date. I think it's February 7th. So I think this would be the week before Captain America, I believe, because it's taking that February Marvel spot.
Yeah. So we'll see. You know, January notoriously usually dumping ground for terrible movies. So
Obviously, notoriously jumping ground for terrible movies, but also, like I said when I first said the date, almost entirely cuts the entire award season out from under it. I mean, that's
yeah, that is
putting it
true. Yeah.
January 3rd. We were talking about in September, we were talking about how the Iron Claw was probably going to get swallowed up because it was just coming out way too late. That's exactly what happened. We still see, oh my God, Iron Claw got so snubbed at the awards. They see those tweets all the time and stuff, and it's like, that's just up to A24 for putting it out too late. And that came out in
Yeah.
December. So January, that's like, forget it. I mean, unless they're gonna do some really weird hybrid thing where they give it the 2 weeks and then they wait a month and a half and then hit wide release right before the Oscars, unless they're trying some new dynamic to some new form of an Oscars campaign, I guess. That could be possible, but as of right now, I guess we don't have to worry about it because it's almost a year away. And like you alluded to, maybe this is to give a lot more time for some still needed post-production or something like that. All right. Yeah, hit us back with what you've been watching. Now that that's over with.
Yeah. So I've only seen 2 movies since last week. First one I watched was Schindler's List for the first time, and never seen that before. I can't really add much more commentary about the movie than what's already been said. Just a fantastic movie by Steven Spielberg.
Do you already have your rewatch booked? Like, man, I can't wait to dive back in.
No, okay. I do not. But everything about it, the acting, how it's shot, the writing is just all fantastic. Liam Neeson, amazing. Ben Kingsley, I thought had a really, really good performance as well. He definitely stood out to me.
What year is Oh, that's 93 because it's the same year as Jurassic, right? Yeah.
And then the other movie I watched, this was a rewatch because there's a lot of Fantastic Four discourse. Okay, this past week,
100%.
This cast is terrible.
He's too old.
Vanessa Kirby, he's far Pedro too Pascal. Joseph Quinn and Evan Moss Backrack. This is a terrible cast. Give me the OG cast back.
Yeah.
So
are we ready to admit how sauced these movies were?
Yeah. So I decided to take that movie out, and I've never seen the Silver Surfer one, so I'm going to watch that one after. And it's been a while since I've seen it. Probably many, many years. And I'm here to say that Fantastic Four from 2005 it's fine. Not great, not terrible, just fine. I think that, the 4 of them, they have some pretty good chemistry. I feel like they can kind of bounce off each other pretty well. Specifically, I really like Michael Chiklis and Chris Evans when they go back and forth. That was really great. But can they use their powers? They get their powers, they don't even use them.
Yeah.
It's like an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes of them like figuring out how to get rid of their powers when, oh, wait a minute, we're superheroes. Let's use our hero powers. Anybody? Was that brought up in the storyboard room when they're talking about it?
Is the first one, because I can't remember if I just went through a bunch of clips during COVID or if I actually watched them. But the last time I kind of revisited them was definitely like 2020 probably. And again, I don't know if I just watched them or if I just like fell down like a clip rabbit hole on YouTube. Is the first one where they get married, or is that in the second one?
That's the second one.
Okay, all right. Yeah, the second one is to me, I think, a better movie. A better Fantastic Four movie. But it is way like the stuff that you would say is like, oh, that's so cringe now, is like there's way more
there's
of
some
that
like lines where it's like very like on the nose, that type of stuff where it's like shut up.
Oh, Sue, the only way to get out of this Sue, the only way to get out of this crowd is to use your powers. I guess you got to strip down and walk through all these people. But
they do it like 3 times.
Yeah, but meanwhile, we're just gonna walk in our regular clothes right next to you.
And there's just like I texted you. I was like, how did Doom get cameras in Reed's office? Like he's just watching him like in his office. I'm like, where did these cameras come from? And they fight Doom for like 5 minutes, and then it's just like they get out in the street.
That's the fight that basically just happens in like an intersection, right?
Right, and when they're in like the middle of Times Square, and it brought me back to like Amazing Spider-Man 2 when he's out there fighting. and I'm like, oh, here it goes. Like, it's just, I was like, doesn't it like kick off here? And it's like, nope, we got him right here.
Yeah,
Let's finish it. And I'm like,
yeah, that's it.
we didn't even fight him.
This guy. That's the difference between probably that movie was like I'm gonna guess and say that movie was $90 million. What's your guess? Keep talking, but give me a guess.
Budget wise,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 90 million. I'm gonna say like 70.
Okay.
Doesn't look great, but I gave it a pass because 120.
Woo!
That's a lot.
$120 million.
But I gave it a pass because it was 2005.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, what are you gonna do with
Totally different time.
The effects back then?
Yeah.
But I'm here to say that I think the four of them together, it's fine. It's fine. I think Chris Evans does have some great banter, like with each of the
Yes.
other actors.
I actually
But
think
so I'm
that
interested to
I
watch
know
Silver
that
Surfer.
Johnny
Surfer.
and Ben is like the main one that people point out, specifically Evans and Chiklis, as like the best chemistry and stuff. But I do actually think that Johan Gruffin and Chris Evans have really good chemistry as well. Particularly, maybe I'm thinking more in the second one because there's, not to spoil the second movie, but there's like they like swap their powers all throughout that movie with each other, like if they touch each other. So there's a lot of like fun stuff with Johnny and Reed in that one. You know what? We're gonna play kind of fast and loose with the episode today. If we're talking about it already, let's just talk about the Fantastic
Let's just
Four.
talk about the cast.
Yeah. So, well, you want to intro this? It was late one Valentine's afternoon.
Yeah, I think it was late last Wednesday. Marvel dropped the bomb of who the Marvel cast or who the Fantastic Four cast is for Marvel for the MCU.
Yes.
So we have Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. We have
and a
Vanessa
beautiful
Kirby
new logo.
Yep, as Sue Storm. We have Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, and then we have Eben Moss Backrack as Ben Grimm / the Thing.
And a new release date coming out July 25th, 2025. 2 weeks to the day after Superman Legacy.
Yeah. So what did you think of this casting? What were you happy? Were you like I remember when I told you about the Pedro Pascal casting or the rumored one.
Yeah, that was right on this show.
Was, a few months before that, you were like, yeah, okay, like I could see that.
Yeah. So here it is right here. If you guys can hopefully see that behind us. I think that this is fantastic. Didn't mean to do that, but
unintended.
I know it was not intended, but I do think it's fantastic. I do think it's funny how many people. I think for every tweet that was like just saying, "Oh, look at the Fantastic Four cast," there was just as many tweets going, "Here's my clip from my podcast 6 years ago where I said it should be set in the '60s." And it's like, I'm pretty sure like 90% of the entire planet was saying that this movie should be set in the 60s. Like, I feel like that was almost not a given, but I would have been really surprised if Marvel didn't use that to its advantage, just how many people really wanted to see something like that. And I think that you could tell by this imagery, it's going to be set in the 60s. People have already looked up and seen that this is a December 1963 issue of Time magazine with Lyndon Johnson on it. Obviously, we see Eben Moss Backrack as a NASA pilot or as a NASA astronaut there, like Ben Grimm was in the comics, like most of them were in the comics. And then obviously we see Herbie here, which is big. I know that there was the closest we ever got to Herbie was there was a bunch of concepts for Four Stick. They were thinking about putting Herbie the robot in there. He unfortunately did not make the cut for either of the Tim Story movies. I don't know, although I don't really know how you would do that character back then other than it just being like a model on like a treadmill.
Right.
But now I think they could definitely do some interesting stuff. Who would you get for Herbie? I saw like Bill Hader, Jack Quaid, like people in that like voiceover area.
Yeah, I think some sort of maybe comedic actor. Like so I think those are kind of right up the alley right there.
I actually just thought of this, and I'm going to throw this out there. Just because I think it would be so funny. Have you ever seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Okay, so the robot in that, who, forgive me, I haven't seen that movie in a very long time. I can't remember the name of the robot, but the robot is voiced by Alan Rickman, and the joke is that it's like this robot, and he's just like depressed all the time, and he's like, "Oh yes," like it's just like Alan Rickman's voice like that. In that similar vein, I would love a like pedantic Fred Armisen to voice Herbie. Like, Herbie, can you run that calculation? Oh, you're always asking me to do stuff. Like that,
Yeah.
like I just think that Fred Armisen, because I like the choice of Bill Hader, but I just went, who else from SNL would be maybe a funnier, less conventional pick? I think the Fred Armisen just doing kind of like a like over it Herbie personality. I think that would be pretty funny and kind of not what you'd expect. Going into what they're actually wearing, I've seen stuff this week, everything from, this is exactly what the third act finale suits need to look like. If they stray from this, I'm done with the movie. Why they can't just show us this and then not give it to us. I think that these suits are great, but also he's wearing a sweater with jeans. Johnny's wearing like either like a Letterman jacket, it looks like, or just like a big, button down shirt or something. And then sure, yeah, they are wearing what appears to be suits, but I don't think we should get too attached to exactly what they are wearing in this exact picture. I also think it's important to note that this is a drawing of the thing, and it's easy to make the thing look like the comic book thing in a drawing. It's another thing when it's a fully finished CG guy. You know what I mean? So I'll be interested to know that, because people are already going like, they nailed the design of the thing. And I'm like, this is like artwork. This is not like a finished CGI man that's going to be in the movie. That being said, I have full confidence they can make him look like this and make it look great. But, I just think people are putting a little too much stock in, this is exactly what they are going to look like once we see live action photography from the movie. And I just don't know if that is exactly true. But again, speaking of, what it's going to look like, this is the brand new logo. Also with the press release, with the official press release, the movie has technically now changed its name to The Fantastic Four. But I love this. I mean, is this the Matt Shackman touch? Is this the WandaVision touch that we're getting?
That's what I'm thinking.
Vibe?
Like, I'm just like looking at like the Marvel logo.
And are you and how psyched are you? Because we now got Matt Shackman, two of his last biggest projects, WandaVision and Monarch. Those are his last two.
I haven't seen Monarch. So
yeah, well, Monarch. Let me tell you, is very
WandaVision.
Very good.
I'm all in for that kind of vibe, or if he brings any of that vibe to this movie, I'm all in for that.
100%. I just think that it is such a solid choice, and a solid move to set this in the 60s for however long it is. And I know there's been people saying like, well, it's only going to be set in the 60s to begin with. And it's like, well, yeah, eventually they're going to have to join the rest of the MCU. Like, I don't think anybody's expecting, that they're putting so much stock into this Fantastic Four movie, and that, they're never going to join the greater MCU. I don't think it's going to be like a Guardians situation where they stay isolated for a very long time. Although that would be cool if there weren't two huge Avengers movies on the horizon that this movie's going to play into. You know what I mean? I would love that. Imagine that if we got a Fantastic Four, just like Guardians, if we got two Fantastic Four movies that just stayed completely separate, and then at the end of like the third one, then they join the Avengers. That would be awesome. Fortunately, that's obviously not how the schedule is working out. They are going to go right from this movie into two Avengers movies, which is totally fine. But yeah, I think it's a great pick. And again, just circling back to the names themselves, I think they're all really good. I think that Eben is clearly the fan favorite out of everybody that's been cast. Probably Vanessa Kirby is a close second there. Just because I think they nailed that Ben Grimm should and is now played by a Jewish actor. A very good Jewish actor, and somebody that has those blue eyes that Eben's eyes, are gonna come through that BCG. And I just think back to the scene in The Bear, now you know what I'm talking about, when he's poking at the ceiling and all the dust comes down on him, and he closes and then opens his eyes, and his skin is covered in dust, and it's those piercing blue eyes. Like, to me, I haven't even watched that episode in months, but, like, that image is seared in my mind as just, like, man, those guys' eyes are crazy. And what he can just do to act with them. I love it. And then I don't understand where this hate for Pedro Pascal is coming from, but This
As
guy's
people
an
are Pedro Pascal'd out.
this guy's an
Apparently, it seems
incredible actor. Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? That's like, I don't know. I'm also a guy
I have an
that
idea. I have an idea
go for it.
before people pass judgment about this casting. How about we see the movie first?
Boom. How
Anybody?
about they have a
Anybody up for
chance to
that?
shoot the movie?
Yeah. How about we see how they interact with each other before we start saying, "Oh my God, this is the worst casting
Ever.
ever." Yeah. Like, what are we doing?
And then the other one is Joseph Quinn. It's like, dude, the guy's
Mhm.
sure the guy's been working consistently for like 10 years as like an English like little character actor and stuff. And he played like a knight at Winterfell in Game of Thrones, like an unnamed knight. And then
Yeah.
his big break wasn't until Stranger Things just
Yeah. And
a year or
people
two
loved
ago.
him in that show. He was
Exactly.
like
And
a fan favorite
what's the
character.
complaint? Well, I just don't see it because in Stranger Things he had long black hair and Johnny Storm is supposed to be tan with blonde hair. Two
Yeah.
words. Will Poulter. I rest my
Yeah.
case. I don't know what you want me to say. Two more words. Camille Nanjiani. Anybody can be a superhero. And those are two examples of two guys that got incredibly ripped. It's not about getting incredibly ripped, especially not as Johnny Storm, but obviously if they're going the more Chris Evans route, which I do think they probably will circle back around to just like making him a big like ladies man. Because I just think again, I think it's important to, you know, still display, you know, toxic masculinity in characters that are kind of defined by that. Not to point any fingers at the Avatar: The Last Airbender remake, but I know a lot of people have been upset with that show because the producers were saying that they were cutting out some of that stuff. And it's like, I do think that's an integral thing in Johnny Storm's character is that he does overstep. He oversteps a lot, and then part of his arcs are always the rest of the team reining him in. You know, I think that that's a very important aspect of his character. I think that Joseph Quinn will hit that no problem. All right, going back to what we've been watching. Anything else that you've been watching?
No, that's it. Only the two movies right there.
All right, well, I'll hit some of mine pretty quick here. So, as we've been talking about the last couple weeks, one of our favorite podcasts, one of your and my favorite podcasts, separately from this, is the Cinephiles, and they've been doing their season of Martin Scorsese. So they were doing Goodfellas. As I said last week, I was staying away from watching it until I finished the podcast. I ended up watching it before they dropped the third and final part. So I watched it then, and then I listened to the third part, and then I just couldn't help myself, so I watched it again. That movie is so good. I've already gotten into it on this channel, but every time I watch that movie, I just kind of fall deeper and deeper under its spell. And I think a lot of that, honestly, is Ray Liotta. There's just something about his performance as Henry Hill that is just so, like, captivating and all-consuming that it is so good. If anyone hasn't seen that or hasn't seen it in a while, I cannot recommend that watch enough. And it's the type of movie that makes 2.5 hours feel like an hour and a half. Really, really good. Then a movie that I saw, I'm kind of going in reverse order here, so bear with me. But then a movie that I saw that I've never seen before that had, I believe, an anniversary, or for whatever reason it was back in theaters, is Amelie. I've never seen this movie. It's a French movie, obviously a very famous French movie. I mean, I feel like the picture of her, you know, smiling and looking into the camera is like a very famous image amongst cinephiles and just amongst film community. I had absolutely no knowledge of anything about it other than that it was a French movie. And it is one of these movies that as the screen time kept going on, at first I was like, is this really for me? You know, whatever. As it kept going on, it just kept pulling me deeper and deeper into its kind of like lunacy. And I just kind of loved it for that. And it's to the point where by the end, when the big romantic build happens and it's this huge crescendo of all these different sporadic character storylines, you know, kind of culminating together. Again, slight spoilers for the emotional arc of Amelie. When she just is ready to accept, you know, love into her life and ready to kind of, move on from being this sort of stunted, you know, growth, stunted youth kind of person and say, you know, I'm ready for a mature adult relationship to kind of take me to that next level in life, even though she is, you know, for the most part in her late 20s for most of the movie. It is kind of a coming of age story and kind of accepting adulthood story, I would say. It's somebody who's already physically come of age, but she is very, closed off and everything like that. And the movie is very much about her opening herself up to the broader world, I guess. And
Hmm.
it just hit me like a brick at the end. I was just like, wow, we're really impressed by that movie. Which is not shocking because it's a super famous movie that people say is really good, and it is. A super famous movie that people say it's bad, and it really is the movie that I watched earlier that day. I don't know why I did this to myself, but I literally got up, went to the 11 a.m. Madam Web, worked a 9-hour shift,
Yeah.
and then the next day went and saw Amelie.
Mm.
But I did see Madam Web, and I'm not gonna be. All right, you wanna hit it? You wanna hit the
Oh,
minute thing, and
I
I'll.
hit it already.
Oh, all right.
So I'll cut it out.
So, all right. I don't want to go into this harping on Madam Web and saying everything that everybody's already said,
Hmm.
but it is. A lot of people said about the Marvels that they were surprised that it was even released. I've never felt
What?
that way.
Never heard that. That's
I
crazy. That's a crazy thing to say.
Sir, certain big YouTuber, one specifically with the initials of DM, was saying that
Oh.
repeatedly throughout his review, but that they thought it was unreleasable. I have never seen a movie and thought that it was unreleasable.
Mm.
Maybe David Zaslav saved me from that with Batgirl. Maybe. This movie, it was unreleasable. This was the first movie I've ever seen that I just went, if anything, should be a tax write-off. And I don't even mean that seriously, because obviously I would never want to see that happen. But man, if anything should have been like Netflix or Sony is trying their first ever straight to Netflix title,
Mm.
this would have been it. I mean, this is to me the kind of movie that just reeks of, and now at this point the movie's been out for almost a week, and it's nothing that anyone else hasn't said already, but it just feels like a movie that they said we need to keep making these movies to retain the rights to this franchise. Whatever
Hmm.
whatever that means, we got to keep doing it. Um I mean, it's just stuff that is just like thrown together. Felt like it there was no steward of this franchise or of this movie. I feel like it was just a bunch of people racing to the finish line just to put out this product, just to put it out.
Hmm.
And to me, Dakota Johnson, I have not seen the remake of Suspiria. I know that people say that she's very good in that. Um, I mean, I really saw people this week trying to say, well, no, she's a great actress. She was great in The Social Network. She's in The Social
Peanut Butter
Network for
Falcon.
for two scenes. I
Yeah.
did love Peanut Butter Falcon, but I will say now that it's been three or so years since that movie, I have a hard
Hmm.
time even remembering her performance. I think about
Yeah.
when I think about that movie, I think about the main guy and I think about Shia and I think about their dynamic together. Although I do remember obviously Dakota Johnson was in it, but like that does not ring huge bells in my mind. Uh, and everything else that I've seen her in, man, she is the anti charisma. She is the anti uh emphasis or emotion or anything. I mean, it's just like some of the most stilted dialogue delivery that is just so baffling. I mean, it's just
Hmm.
absolutely baffling. Like at one point a character says, they Sydney Sweeney says to her like, "Is there anything that you need?" And she
Hmm.
just goes, "No, thank you. I have everything I need right here." And it's like it's just one of those things that and whether it's that or whether it's the right before she died, which isn't even in the movie, but might as well be. It's just so, telegraphed at that point. But it's also not just her. It's everyone in the movie. It's an ADR stitch
And 90
fest.
like 5% ADR the
Yeah,
villain or
no,
something.
literally, dude. I mean, it's like I will give you this. There's been some people being like, I don't think the villain ever even talks with his mouth to camera. He definitely does. People I think are just like kind of either misremembering or kind of glossing over that. But
Right.
that being said, you can ADR stuff. That's a common misconception. You can have an ADR voice track with someone looking directly towards the camera. I mean, you just
Hmm.
have to line it up well. It just has to be good ADR.
Yeah. Watch
Um,
Godfather 1.
there you go. Yes, exactly. A lot of movies shot on film, like half of Nolan's stuff. Um, it's just crazy. It's literally just crazy. there's people that are in it and you're like, why are you in this movie in this role? You're a famous person. What is happening? This is like a role that, I'm sorry, could have been like, I'm just gonna pull a name, Gina Rodriguez. Like, it could, it could have been somebody like that, and it's like, I don't know why I'm beating around it. It's like Emma
Right.
Roberts is in this movie, in a very strange role that I'm like, this is the role that you give to like Alexa Demi. Like, because she's just not at that movie level that some of the other Euphoria cast is. Like, this is not something that you, like, a tiny little role that you give to Emma Roberts, who used to lead her own movies and is a huge television actress and everything like that. It just felt so off to me. And somebody who I think was giving it their all is Adam Scott, and I think that he's one that probably a lot of his stuff is left on the floor. But what there is, I think he's doing a good job. But then at the same time, I'm like, what is he even serving the purpose in this movie? What purpose is he even serving in this movie? It's just very... And then on top of everything I just said, it was boring.
Yeah. I heard I was watching a review, and something about like one of Dakota Johnson's lines was like, she doesn't like to help people, but it's like, you're an EMT.
Yes,
So
literally.
it kind
She goes,
contradicts.
I don't like people. I don't like leaving my apartment. But then she's an EMT. There's no explanation of why she's an EMT. She doesn't go, well, my mom died, so I want to make sure that other people don't die. There's nothing even as simple as that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's just no explanation. She doesn't seem to enjoy it. She seems, I guess the movie tells me in one scene that she's good at it. Although most of her scenes are losing people when she's a paramedic. But, it's just very weird. There's just no coherency to it at all. Just very frustrating. But, yeah, I gave it a 0.5 star. But my review was that they don't allow me to give it 0 stars. So that was
Yeah,
weird.
like when I was just seeing like all like the reviews and stuff, like all of these made me want to go see it more. And you were like, you're crazy.
It's just not that kind of movie. It's
But-
really just not.
I will. I'm definitely going to watch it. I don't know when. Maybe when it comes. Probably when it comes like some sort of streaming or something like that. I'm definitely not gonna go to the theater and see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I am just like interested. And it really sucks, if that is what the kind of end game was. It's like, we'll make this Madam Wed movie. They were announcing. Remember, like the what was that?
El
that
Muerto.
character? El Muerto, that movie that they were gonna do.
That like Aunt May's 70s spy thriller thing that they were talking about. Like,
Oh, I don't know about that. That's a news to me.
that was part of the original Sony hack, like the email hack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it just kind of seems like, like you said, they're kind of just, going through the motions, animated. They're putting that effort in, as much effort as they can, unless Lauren Miller just like, let us do it. You go away.
Mm-hmm.
But like, who knows? We still got Craven this year. Who knows what that's going to be? And, Venom's been fine. Not great. I think it's kind of been diminishing returns with that. So we'll see Venom 3 again. I still don't know why the third movie is going to be Toxin. You think the third movie would be Carnage, but whatever. What do I know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that really sucks. And I hope they reevaluate. I hope they stop making these and reevaluate, I guess.
Well, until then, we have Venom 3 and Craven to look forward to this year. Before they learn to stop. Now, the good news is, to my knowledge, there is no Spunk movies in production.
What do you say again?
Spunk.
Spunk. Okay.
Yeah, it's the Sony
You're
Pictures universe.
You're saying spunk.
It's the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Great. Don't you know that? Isn't that a household name like the MCU?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Remember, I always threw the Dooku at you, the Dark Universe Cinematic Universe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Dooku. Twice the movies, double the fall. All right. Next up, let's move on to some. Oh, and also I've been watching on Netflix this show called Love on the Spectrum. I heard nothing but great things I'm
I
not
think I saw
usually
yeah
like
a trailer for that.
yeah, that kind of like 90 Day Fiance, you know, Love is
Hmm.
Blind type of thing. I don't normally watch that stuff, but people were just saying that it's such a good like wholesome show, and it really was. It's only like it's 2 seasons, and they're both like 6 35-minute episodes, so it was super quick, but it was
Hmm.
just super like wholesome and nice. The main reason I watched is because people were saying that it's unlike most Netflix shows, that it's like pretty sincere. So I was like,
Mm.
okay, let me try that. So I did watch that as well. All right, moving on to some news topics here. First one up that I want to talk about. What are your thoughts on this? You see it in the thumbnail, you see it in the title here. Henry Cavill is reportedly uh, going over to Marvel Studios. Now, I know this is something that has been kind of speculated on and talked loosely about for, I feel like, years at this point. And I should state here that this is not coming to us from discussing film or variety or Jeff Snyder with the In Snyder or any sort of reliable stuff like that. This is seemingly coming from the My Time to Shine Hello account, which is an
Mm.
anonymous scooper account, and then Blu-ray Angel, which is the super smiley guy on TikTok. Apparently, are the ones reporting this. So now the My Time to Shine Hello has been right about stuff in the past. So you know, people are, you know, aggregating it and reposting it. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that there's even merit to this report? And who would you want to see him play?
Um, I think there's definitely some merit. You know, who by like, you know, who he would play is a whole different conversation.
Hmm.
You know, there's obviously been talk of him playing Doom and Fantastic Four. And obviously there's talk of people saying possibly Cyclops could be cool.
Hmm. The other one's
I think
Captain
either of
Britain.
those could
People are
work.
saying too.
Or Captain Britain.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think honestly, I had never heard the Cyclops thing until today, or like literally like 30
Yeah,
minutes ago,
neither have
whatever
I.
it
Yeah.
was. And I think that one works really well. Um, I don't really. I feel like it's hard for me to see him. I guess he was a villain in Mission Impossible,
Hmm.
but like I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to see him as Doctor Doom, but at the same time, especially from what we've seen from a Doctor Doom so far, I feel like obviously he's a good-looking guy, and obviously I guess he could get smaller too. You know, I feel like Doom has not been, you know, in the past two kind of iterations, he hasn't been some big dude. You know, he's
Hmm.
been a pretty, you know, fine, stocky guy, kind of like the same build as Reed, I'd say,
Yeah.
right? Um, so I can't really picture this Doom, but the Cyclops thing I definitely can. And there was like I know you scrolled past like a quick like, you know, somebody just
Yeah.
created like a hodgepodge or whatever of an image that kind of looked really cool. That one, yeah. I was like, yeah, I could see that if that even came close to anything that he would look like. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that any of those possibilities are pretty interesting. I think that there's merit to the Captain Britain choice,
Hmm.
particularly with, you know, what does that mean? Could we see post Secret Wars? Could do we? First of all, I think that there's a good chance that you see somebody like post Secret Wars, if we're gonna merge these worlds back together, you know, but with Battle World and everything, and then the new MCU going forward is a world with mutants and different characters having existed, having never existed at all, whatever you want to say. I think that you could see somebody like a Captain Carter become a permanent fixture of the MCU world. So I would love to
Hmm.
see maybe a Captain Carter, Captain Britain team up movie with Henry Cavill and Haley Atwell. I think that that would be an incredible movie, an incredible move. Just because we kind of already have a Captain Britain in the MCU lately with Captain Carter, so I think that there could be some interesting team up stuff in that case. I think with
Hmm.
if they wanted to go the Captain Britain route. Like you, we literally just before we went live here, we were just pulling up stories and we saw all these Cyclops tweets, particularly that image that I just showed on screen. I think that that would be great. I think maybe he's a little old for what I was kind of picturing them to be doing for the X-Men.
Hmm.
But maybe it is going to be, you know, an older kind of first gen class. Um, than a slightly younger one. But to me, and this is not something that like, oh, it has to be Doom or I'm not going to watch the movie. I do think that he would just be a fantastic Doom. I could see him being a contemporary for Pedro because they are similar ages. Henry Cavill's only about, I think 6 or 7 years younger than him. They're both in their 40s. I just think that Henry Cavill as Doom, he could embody in flashbacks, in whether it's going to be in flashbacks in Secret Wars or flashbacks in Fantastic Four 2 or whatever it's going to be. I think that he can embody wearing a sweater vest and a button-down shirt and having that curlier, Henry Cavill hair and being like the young days with him and Reed of when, sky's the limit and the world is their oyster in terms of research and science and all this stuff. And then I think that, like you said, we have not seen a huge build on Doctor Doom in the past 2 incarnations with what's his name, Julian, whatever his name is, that played him in the original movies, and then Toby Kebbell in Fantastic. Obviously, very smaller interpretations of the character, but I think that Henry Cavill would be the definition of the sitting on the throne, the metal costume, the green cape, the mask, the hood, the kind of brick shithouse version of Doctor Doom, of just like as wide as a barn. I think there is heavy merit in that kind of a characterization, and that is the kind of characterization that can take down a Kang and set himself up in one movie as an Avengers level threat. I think we thank Mysterio every day for that term, Avengers level threat. But it really is to me. I think that if you had Cillian Murphy as Doom, you'd go, oh, this guy's kind of calculating and interesting, and could the Avengers take him down? I think if you have Henry Cavill as Doom, and he's got the full armor, and he's as wide as a barn, and he is just like evil and smart and powerful and terrifying to look at, that he's just this imposing force. I think that is how you, no pun intended, lay down the gauntlet and say this is a threat. So for me, I think that Henry Cavill as Doom would maybe be as about perfect casting as I can think of right now. That being said, if it's not Doom, if this whole thing is BS and he's not even going to go to Marvel, I have no issue whatsoever. But I think if he's going to go to Marvel, I would rather see him in a Cyclops or a Doom role than a Captain Britain role, just because Captain Britain, I think, by his merits, is a kind of lower level hero. But then again, so is Iron Man. You could make maybe I'm totally wrong, and you get who's a great British director? Maybe you get like Casino Royale, Martin Campbell, right? What if Martin Campbell wants to do a Captain Britain movie? He's got a great idea for it. He's got that action movie with Daisy Ridley coming up. Martin Campbell does. But then again, Martin Campbell's also done stuff like Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds, so maybe he's looking to redeem himself. I think that a Captain Britain movie, because that was the huge speculation along with this, was that was kind of the big rush, was people were almost ready to say he's signed with Marvel for Captain Britain. So I think that any character would be interesting, but I do hope that it is Doom, just because I think it's a great pick. I don't know. But anything else on Henry Cavill before we move on there?
No.
All right, Michelle in chat. I want to get caught up here with the chat. Put in some thoughts about Madam Web. I feel like if they'd shown the last scene first and then worked their way back to see how they got to that point, I think just a lot of stuff in that movie could be worked better. And then she said, I am all about Cavill being any character in the MCU. I agree 100%, and I think Jeff Snyder on the hot mic today put it really well, where he said, listen, there's only so many franchises, and you kind of gotta, go where the getting's good. You know what I mean? He's already done Mission. Maybe he goes for a Star Wars role. Maybe he goes for a Star Trek role. But he's done DC. He's done Mission Impossible. Maybe a John Wick role. But, in terms of a giant franchise that he can really sink his teeth into, it's really the MCU, I think, is the last place that he can go. Other than his, Warhammer 40,000 or whatever that he is working on as well. But I just think it's very interesting, and we will keep monitoring that. But I think it's a great choice for him to join that world regardless. Next up, did you take a look at any of this X-Men 97 stuff?
I have not seen any of that.
They dropped
a poster.
Yeah, I like that. I like the poster, the VHS vibes. New episodes, new era, it says. I liked the trailer. I mean, I for one used to watch those episodes totally out of order when I was a kid because and I found out this week that they aired totally out of order first run. They didn't even air in the right order. Now they're all in the right order on Disney
Oh,
Plus
really?
though. Yeah. I
I
guess
didn't
it
know
was
that.
just some like music licensing stuff or something that basically
Mhm.
everything was thrown off where they just didn't care back then or something. But people were like, in back in the 90s, you'd watch an episode and it would say to be continued, and then the next week would just be a totally new story. um but I did watch the show a little bit when I was a kid as just one of the shows that I would watch. And I really, really liked it, but I did not remember the overall arc or anything. So in the trailer starts with the death of Charles Xavier. And apparently that's what the final season was about, was him dying.
Mm.
But it looks interesting. Scott is front and center. So Cyclops is seemingly really getting, the, what some people would say is the treatment that he's always deserved in this show, which I think is really, really interesting. I'm very excited to see Cyclops. That's why the Henry Cavill as Cyclops thing kind of got me excited because as much as I love Wolverine, I do think that a big stumbling point in those Fox movies is just how diminished Scott feels in those movies in both
Mhm.
trilogies. Whether it's James Marsden or Ty Sheridan, I just think that they could have done so much more with him. So I'm excited to see Scott kind of taking the lead on this show. But then also there's a great tease at the end with Magneto coming in and he's saying, that Charles's will, that Charles left everything he ever built to Magneto. So is
Mhm.
that like, is he telling the truth? Did Charles really do that? Is he lying? I think that's a very interesting thing to see develop. And then the creators have been talking about that their plan is fully to, they want to give these characters arcs that they deserve and, make them seem more powerful than they even did in the original show. I really like it. I like all that stuff.
Yeah, I've only seen the first like 3 episodes of
Yeah.
the original series. Um, so I kind
I
of
think
want.
it's
I think it's like
79.
60. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
somewhere in there. I did kind of want to get through all of them. I don't think that's gonna happen, unfortunately, because like you said, seven. And I didn't realize it was coming out really next month. So, um, but I definitely want to check out more of them because I liked what I saw. I think I just wasn't like in the
Hmm.
mood for it really.
Yeah, there's 76 episodes. Um and they're all about 20 minutes each. So, I mean,
Mhm.
it's definitely doable, but it is a lot. That is a lot of show
Yeah.
to get through. Particularly, I think what a lot of people say is, and why this show is so exciting for a lot of people, is that animation really is not holding up on the original. So I think
Mhm.
it's nice to kind of go this route with it. All right, next up here, it looks like maybe for the second time, since this movie was surprisingly announced what feels like 2 weeks ago. Gareth Edwards, of obviously the creator and Godzilla 2014 fame, also a little movie called Rogue One, is reportedly the top choice, and now Hollywood Reporter is actually confirming that he is set to direct the new Jurassic World movie.
Oh.
Obviously, we previously had David Leitch attached to that, which the original report was that Universal was like, this is our guy. It's going to be David Leitch. He's helped us out of, Hobbs and Shaw. Now he's helping us out with, the Fall Guy. And then all of a sudden, the talks went bad and they said David Leitch is out. So what are your thoughts on Gareth Edwards coming in? I know we've heard for a while now that they really want to get this movie rolling. So this would be more of like a shooter, like, hey, we just got to get this done, more so than
Yeah.
Gareth Edwards coming in and crafting the whole movie around it. What are your thoughts on this pick for Jurassic, and what are your thoughts on this pick for Gareth Edwards' career?
Yeah, I think it's a great pick for just the franchise in general because I feel like Gareth Edwards has like a unique touch on
And
everything he
nobody does
directs.
scale better than him.
Right. It does kind of suck that he's not kind of doing any writing for the movie. But in all fairness, because I wasn't sure what he had credited on. He didn't have credit on Rogue One for any writing, and
Yeah.
he didn't have any credit on Godzilla either.
Hmm.
So, and he's still like Rogue One. I think definitely one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
Yeah. Hey, look at that.
Definitely has like he definitely has like a certain touch. I feel like that really works for me. And me and you, not the biggest fans of the creator still really liked it for what
For
it
sure,
was
yeah.
and the world building. Um, so
And
yeah,
then
I think this is
no matter what
this
you
is
want to
great.
say, best thing about the creator is the direction.
Right.
Yeah,
And
and
obviously,
the visuals and stuff. But
visuals,
yeah,
of course. Yeah. So I'm very interested to see uh, what he does with this. Pleasant surprise, but it is kind of a bummer that he's not going to be able to, mess with the story or anything like
yeah,
that.
or really like yeah. I just hope that in ways that are still available to him, that he can put his mark on it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Maybe it's like, hey, I can't adjust the story or anything, but I've got some really great ideas for the visuals for what is
Yeah.
already here. I think that's kind of the best that we can hope for in this situation. I do hope for that. But I think I agree with you. I think it's a great choice for Jurassic. I think it's a great choice for Universal. And I think it's a great choice for Gareth Edwards. I mean, that guy, literally for years during like COVID and like the late 2010s, people were like, after Rogue One, is this guy ever gonna even work again? And then he got the
Hmm.
creator, and now he's gonna get Jurassic, and he's building back up. It was worrying me that he was gonna be somebody that I thought we might lose along the way, of just like not having um kind of honestly, I thought he was going to be a guy that might have gone down with the ship on Rogue One, and
Hmm.
I thought we were just never going to get him back. So I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, I think this might be like a good kind of, again, like we said, creator. I feel like was well received for the most
Yeah,
part, but it just didn't really make much money,
yeah,
unfortunately. So I think this is a nice kind of reset, and hopefully,
yeah.
we can. Granted, again, Jurassic World, Dominion, I think made, or was it combined? They all made 1 billion, or they
Oh
each made
no,
a
they
billion,
each
or
made
something.
over $1 billion. Yeah,
Right.
I
So
think it was
they,
like law of diminishing returns. It was like 1.9,
yeah,
1.6, and then like 1.2. I think, but
right.
yeah.
So financially success, but hopefully, he can
Mhm.
provide a much needed reset for that
Yeah, and
franchise.
I mean also, if it's true, which it's got to be, that the whole intention with this is to go smaller.
Hmm.
Um, if it's an $85 million budget, I think the movie has a good chance of hitting $1 billion. But even if it hit 500 million, you're still making hand over fist money on that movie if it only costs like less than $100 million.
Hmm.
So I'm very excited for that. Another thing I'm excited for: Ben Schwartz has confirmed that he has begun recording all of his work for Sonic 3 this week. This comes after we got the nice little logo and title treatment reveal thing that we got last week. Just another indication that things are heating up in the Sonic world. Very excited for that one. Any thoughts on Sonic 3? Hayden Christensen, is he going to be
Uh,
Shadow?
Maybe great to hear. Recording lines, and I don't know. I'm hyped for whoever Shadow is, though.
Yeah.
Hayden would be a good choice, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think that anything for Hayden would be a really great choice at this point. And maybe it's one of those things that maybe that just started as an internet rumor, but if they haven't even cast Shadow yet, that combined with the Empire magazine shoot that like Hayden's just having a moment right now, maybe they just get Hayden just to get him. You know what I mean? Maybe they weren't even
Mhm.
thinking about it until the internet kind of created it, but I do think he would be a good choice. I think he's got a good voice for like a voiceover character. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think he does. Next up, probably the biggest news. Honestly, dude, this is probably some of the biggest news in just film ever. Just because something happened that I don't think that anyone ever thought was ever going to happen. And that is a huge announcement coming out of Deadline, that director Sam Mendes, along with Sony Pictures, is going to be commissioning and making, and Sam Mendes will be directing 4 total movies, one set in each band member's point of view of
Mhm.
the Beatles. And
That's
the
crazy.
most important thing, because I saw this news and I went, oh, that's surprising. They've never been able to really do Beatles biopics before because they've never been able to get the life rights and the music rights. And then later on, I saw the follow up tweet that said, this news is huge because it is the first time that the remaining representatives of the band have ever agreed to allow these movies will be made with full life rights and full music rights, which is obviously insane. I mean, even you look at a movie like Yesterday, half the budget on that movie was getting the rights to the songs. And even then, it wasn't anything that you could get with life rights or anything. So not only this is this huge that this is really going to be the first ever time that the Beatles life rights and music rights can be attributed to a movie. But also just this undertaking that they're working on 4 separate biopic films in the works and each one is going to release in 2027. So we're going to get a
Oh
John
wow.
movie, a Paul
Holy
movie,
crap.
a Ringo movie, and a George
Mhm.
movie, all in the same years. And you'd have to assume that whoever they cast as Paul will be in all 4 movies. Whoever they cast as John will be in all
Yeah.
4 movies. So this is kind of a behemoth of a story and a behemoth of an undertaking, obviously fitting for the Beatles. I mean, to my knowledge, nothing like this has ever been attempted in Hollywood before. I mean, the only thing I could think of is like maybe that Fear Street trilogy, but that is on a
Mm.
scale totally not like this.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
that's like not even a comparison. I'm just trying to scratch my head for any sort of thing that is like, we're gonna make 3, or now in this case 4 similar movies and release them back to back to back. What are your thoughts on just all this stuff? Where are you at with the Beatles? I'll just be right back, but I can listen to you.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Beatles fan. Not much of a connection to their music, unfortunately. But this is very interesting. It's gonna be like all 4, obviously, like you said, like it's gonna be the same actors, and they're each gonna appear in each other's movies. But then it'll have that person's unique perspective in their own movie. Kind of like in a weird way. Obviously it's not like a cinematic universe, but it like kind of is, because it's not like it's like, oh, these people have never met, they're total strangers and they come together in one movie. But seeing these different actors play these different characters but not in their own movie, I don't know, it's very weird, and I'm hopefully it comes out well. That's very bold of them to like release them all in the same year too. um I wonder how you stagger that too. Like you just do like one a quarter maybe. um and I wonder if what the like I wonder like what the return will be as well. Maybe you do like the same budget as well. I don't know. This is the whole thing. um But yeah, that's it's very interesting. Let's see, any chats. For the Beatles films, I really wish my husband was still with us to see that. He would have cried with joy at this news. um, let's see. I am all about Cavill being any character in the MCU. Agreed. I think Henry Cavill definitely needs like a reset. What did he do? He did Mission Impossible, and then he obviously came back for Black Adam for like 5 seconds. And then what else did he do? He was in Enola Holmes, right? Oh yeah, Argyle. Well, he wasn't really in Argyle, from what I've been told. Oh yeah, he was in The Witcher, and then he quit for Superman. So yeah, this might be a nice reset for him when he comes back, or if he does end up taking a role in Marvel. Did you hear what I was? Or you heard me? But
Yeah.
like, what I was saying about like, if you're gonna do all 4 of these movies, do they have they have different budgets? And then I'd just be interested to see like the box office and how that correlates to which movie is, and which story is being told. Like I'm sure obviously a lot of people have favorite members that are of the
Yeah.
band, so like how that correlates to that, I think would be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point that you bring up. That's a really, really good point, because it's like, do you budget a Ringo Starr movie with the same budget as a John Lennon movie? Do you do
Yeah.
that? What's the business
Yeah.
decision behind that? But then again,
Yeah.
also look at something like Bohemian Rhapsody. Look at something like this new Michael Jackson biopic, which to me, I'm loving what I'm seeing out of it. That Jafar Jackson kid, his nephew, looks strikingly like him. But also, it's these territories when the bands or the people themselves are involved directly with these movies that gets me worried, that it's like, well, Ringo and Paul are still here. You know,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? The other two are not still here. So it's like, I really hope that we don't start getting reports that Ringo and Paul are super heavily involved with this. Sure, talk to them. Sure, interview everybody that you want to. Um, but it does worry me if those two are going to be specifically, you know, um, kind of big marshals in this production,
Hmm.
just because I don't want to see that Bohemian Rhapsody treatment where it goes, no, we don't want that story in the movie. And it's like, well, if you're gonna go
Right.
for this, you gotta kind of go for it. Like I don't
Hmm.
want the I don't want this like kind of, sugary, you know, kind of glazed over version of a Beatles biopic, especially on this scale. I mean, it's just crazy. The last thing on this Beatles thing though is, do you think that this will happen? I mean, do we think that this will hit in 2027 with all four of these? I mean, to be fair,
Yeah,
they're
I
giving
think that's
themselves,
bold.
yeah, and to be fair, they're giving themselves 3 years. Sam Mendes
Yeah.
isn't really. Am I right in saying this would be his direct follow up to 1917? Has he done anything since then?
I'm
Oh,
looking.
he did Empire of Light, or yeah,
Oh yeah.
right? Didn't he?
Yes,
Is
he
that
did.
yeah?
Yep.
Um, So, yeah. I mean, I think it'll be interesting, but again, I'm going to be just interested to see how this develops. And like you said, I mean, do you give a George Harrison biopic the same weight as a Paul McCartney biopic when George Harrison is no longer here and Paul McCartney is? It's like, is Paul going to be hogging the spotlight? Like, I want Paul to have a big monologue scene in all four
Hmm.
movies. You know what I mean? It's like, well, George doesn't even have any lines in this one. It's like, well, that's not fair. How do you kind of balance all four of these like massive powerhouse egos kind of within this project? I think that'll be very
Hmm.
interesting. But again, I think the main kind of headline here is, I'm just so shocked that they gave over the life rights and particularly the music rights. I just thought that that was never going to happen. I really just thought that was never going to happen. Two biopics that I have been talking about to my friends and family, like within the past couple months. I went on this whole long thing about how there should be a Bee Gees biopic to my mother like a month or two ago after I saw Iron
Yeah.
Claw. I said, get the guy who did Iron Claw to do a Bee Gees biopic. Um, and then that Ridley Scott news came out last week that said that Ridley Scott's next movie is going to be a Bee Gees biopic. And then I was
Hmm.
talking to somebody last month just talking about how, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we're probably going to have to wait until Ringo and Paul are gone, and then start, looking at stuff for Beatles biopics. Never did I ever think that something like this would happen while they were still alive. Um, Not to mention this, I mean, they're only like 80. It's not like they're like 100. There's a good chance that they'll be involved with these movies. But I digress. Very interested, but I'm more interested to just see how it all comes together and if it even all comes together. And before we move on there, Michelle in chat says, don't even worry about Paul and Ringo being heavy into this. Worry that Yoko is. Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
that is true. Like I said, but it's those individual representatives. I wouldn't want George's son to be like, no, this is how I need my dad to be portrayed. I don't
Hmm.
want Yoko saying no, that John wouldn't have said this, you know, and then obviously with the other two, I don't want them themselves, doing it. I think it's all the same thing. I would prefer this to be as distant from the source as possible, because a lot of this stuff is already known. You know what I mean? We don't need them on set. All right. Anything else on Beatles or any news in general? All right.
That's it for me.
All right. Let's see here. Oh, any thoughts real quick on this? Sony is taking over the entirety. Oh, I got something I need your thoughts on in a second. Any thoughts on that Sony is taking over the entirety of Disney's physical media? I know people thought that Disney's physical media was just going to completely shutter its doors entirely. So I think some
Hmm.
people are taking this as a major lifeline victory for
Yeah.
not Disney as a corporation, because why does somebody else have to step in to offer to put physical media out when you should just be doing it yourself? Like, you should just be respecting that
Right.
part of it. But
So to me,
yeah,
I was like, did that mean they were just like they're just done? I guess at that point, and they were just gonna be like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. And then Sony was like, we'll do it.
I think that's
Um,
exactly what happened.
I think that's great news
Yeah,
if they, if they're gonna keep putting this stuff out. I've recently, I feel like, shifted more over to a physical media type of
yeah,
person than digital. So I'm trying to get at least the movies. I'm not buying like like every Blu-ray I see or
yeah.
every 4K, but at least the movies I know I'm gonna want to watch again, stuff like that. I'm definitely
Quick shout
purchasing
out.
them physically.
Something I know I'm going to be picking up as soon as I can soon is right now I believe it's 1980 or something. The Criterion Blu-ray of 12 Angry Men is on sale on Amazon for like less than $20.
I got
So,
that one.
oh well, there you go. Yeah, I'm going to be getting that soon just because I love that movie so much. Now that I've actually seen it. And I love that cover. I think that's my favorite
Yeah.
Criterion cover that they've ever done. Just the white background with that like super bright orange, super awesome. But
Can't wait to pick up Madame Web on 4K.
well, yeah, I mean that's going to be a great steelbook for sure. It's going to be the Amazon edition.
Yeah.
All right. At this point in the show, I will say, please stick around. Anybody watching, I would say just stick around for the conversation because I think it's an interesting conversation that we're going to have. But also, it's a show that I know maybe not a lot of people that I know are particularly watching this, but a lot of people in the world are watching this. And it just goes to show, I think this is one of those examples of the actual real world is not Twitter. Because Twitter would have you think that True Detective Night Country, aka True Detective Season 4, is not that good or was not a massive hit with the populace. But now that the show has wrapped up, which is what we are going to talk about for probably the next 15, 20 minutes here to end out the show, I got some numbers here for you. So True Detective Season 4 is the most viewed season yet, averaging 12.7 million views per episode. Just to give you a little indication, Succession at its height was pulling in about 3.9 million views per episode. So this is almost 10 million more than that. Highest rated single season of True Detective on Rotten Tomatoes with 92%. But then the finale, and this is what we're really going to get into here. The finale is currently the lowest rated episode ever in the series on IMDb with 5.7. Important to note there that IMDb, that is not a stringent vetted process. That could
you can just like post whatever you want.
You can post whatever you want, and it can also be review bombed and stuff like that. And it just simply does not have the same stuff in place that Rotten Tomatoes now has in place to kind of cut down on that stuff. But let's get into this, man. I'll go first, and I'll just say that how I kind of came at the show. I know you've been watching week to week and everything. I started watching week to week, then I fell off, then I tried to get caught back up, whatever. Yesterday, I got home from work, and my roommate showed interest in watching it, so we just started over. I watched all 6 back to back to back last night, just in a complete tear, right in a row, for like 6.5 hours or whatever it is. Also, how great is it to have a show that has 6 episodes and the final runtime is over 6 hours instead of like 3 hours. Like every time an episode felt like it would have ended if it was like a Disney Plus show, there was like 40 more minutes of episode, which I thought was really great. But let me get your thoughts on this first, just because you've been watching this consistently week to week and you've been telling me to get caught up on it. I'm glad I did. But what are your thoughts on the season overall, and then what are your thoughts on this finale? Man, what? Only on Tuesday nights is this street like there's like a Harley race out front. I don't know what's going on.
I thought season 3 at the end of the day was good. I told you that I was definitely in on the first, probably first 1 through 3 episodes, and I'd say 4 and 5 kind of pushed me away a little bit. But the combination of the kind of different stories that were going on and the obviously haunting atmosphere of Alaska and just it being dark all the time, and the little kind of paranormal stuff going on as well, or supernatural, really kept me engaged, I'd say, the entire time. Obviously, I thought Jodie Foster was amazing. And oh my God, I forget her name. Callie Reese, is that how you pronounce her name?
Callie Reese, yep. I want to look up the name of the young guy who plays Pryor.
Yeah, I thought she was good in the show. I know you at some point said maybe like her and Jodie Foster on screen together, it's not really a competition.
Yeah.
But I still thought she was good. She held her own to the best she could. Like you said, the guy who played Pryor, that guy, I thought he was really awesome as well. And I didn't really get the hate, after the finale. Was I completely satisfied with the finale? No. But were the questions that I had answered for the most part? Yes, I would say they were. Do I don't know, do I wish like they hadn't done the whole spiral thing because it didn't really if we're being honest, it didn't really amount to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I guess, I kind of wish they would have just left it alone, not done anything with it. But I understand that maybe they wanted to tie it in somehow to, not that it really matters. Again, a few weeks ago we said like, this could mean something at the end or not,
Mm-hmm.
and they chose not to really, do much with it. They hinted at it again, not hinted, but they literally show you the spiral again multiple times in this episode.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's kind of maybe like kind of an overarching thing. But again, it kind of skips season 2. I don't think it's in season 2 and 3. It's definitely not season 2. Where it's just kind of this, I don't know, I guess showing the spiral again kind of creates this, I don't know, this overarching feel of kind of dread and that, this kind of darkness is all around us, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know, I was happy with it. I didn't, do I think it's better than season 1? No. Is it better than season 2? Yes. I haven't seen season 3, so I can't speak to that. But I definitely had a good time with it. Hopefully they make more. Was it true that the original creator was retweeting bad people that were bad mouthing it?
Yeah, Nick Pizzolatto.
I think that's lame. That's just lame.
Especially because Nick Pizzolatto is a guy that it's not like he's been spited out of the industry or something. This is a guy who's still working, and you're gonna choose to trash somebody else's vision, and no less, but a female filmmaker of color that is getting this huge opportunity, and you're gonna be I think it's lazy shit. And I saw that Issa Lopez tweeted out and was well, I'm so sorry you feel that way, but any connection and anything I wrote that is a tie to your work was done with nothing but reverence and love for the material that you did.
Yeah,
and then he still continued to be oh, people hate this one.
Yeah.
And it's
if you wanted to do if you don't like that, come back and write a new one. If you don't,
exactly, yeah.
If you wanted to, then be my guest. You're welcome to come back and do another one.
And also, those numbers said,
did he have a hand in season 2?
He had a hand in the first 3 seasons.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Have you seen season 2? Not great.
Well, that was the last thing I saw that they posted, was that he put on his Instagram story a screenshot of somebody's tweet that said it was the season 2 cast, and it was oh, how I treated you so harshly.
That. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, and
I'm
he
sorry, all was forgiven.
Yes, he put that out on his story, and I'm dude.
Yeah.
And again, with the numbers that I just said, the most viewed season yet, 12.7 million views. That's sorry, buddy. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. All right. I agree with a lot of what you said. But man, I got to tell you, I guess I agree with everything that you said, because you said I don't get the hate and stuff. Man, I will tell you, rewatching this all back to back to back, I literally just no breaks watched it back to back. This is so good to me. I was so gripped. It was such a slow burn, but something about just knowing the fact that I could finish the whole thing in one sitting, knowing that the finale was out there, I think just got me way more hooked into just what's gonna happen next, because I knew that I wasn't gonna have any sort of
real quick.
Oh yeah.
He wrote The Guilty, Jake Gyllenhaal remake in 2021. Give me a break. Come on.
He said, give me a fucking break, man. Let's get this guy out of here. Yeah, again, just very, very weird. Especially because you have nothing to do with the show anymore. I'm sorry, but it's let people, do stuff. It'd be like if Steven Spielberg took to Twitter about Dominion and was they fucking ruined my shit. What is this movie? I'm going to make a new Jurassic movie and I'm going to pick my own director. You know what I mean? You don't do that. But, especially to another creative. That just feels so kind of icky to me. But, yeah, watching it all back to back to back like that, I will say, first of all, the thing that I did say a couple weeks ago, um, I don't know if it's the fact that Callie Reese physically as an actress got better as the episodes went on and as filming went on, um, or if it's that I just doubted her game in the first two episodes. But to me, by the end, I thought that she was incredible. I thought that,
Mhm.
I mean, it still, is she as great an actress as Jodie Foster? No, but I don't think anyone in this show is as great an actress as Jodie Foster. Um, Evangeline Navarro, to me, and her dynamic with Liz Danvers, who's Jodie
Mhm.
Foster's character, just worked so well for me. Easily the best dynamic between two characters since McConaughey and Harrelson. I don't even think that's a question for me. And I was into the Wheeler mystery, everything that was happening with the Annie mystery, what's going on with the supernatural stuff. And for the most part, I think that, and who can be trusted, who cannot be trusted, what's going on with the mining, with the lab, um, and for the most part, I think that in the finale, I think that they hit pretty much everything that I wanted them to hit. I mean, I'm sure in a minute here we're probably going to go a little bit more deep into the finale and kind of what we think happened, because there's some stuff that's left kind of open ended.
Mhm.
Um, but man, seeing these two grow and just the arc that they had, I honestly could see myself watching this whole show again, just to relive with these characters. I think particularly Jodie Foster is just like fucking like dynamite on screen in this show. Like,
Mhm.
she is just so good, and such a complex character.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, she's got that kind of likability unlikability thing that's just like, man, you seem like a really great, person that I'm rooting for and stuff, and then it's like you say
I
some
don't
really
think
fucked up
I'll,
shit to your daughter.
if I yeah, if I'm being honest, I don't think I ever rooted for her once. Not
Man.
not once, I shouldn't say. It's just like
Well, you
every time
also
I
came
feel
out
like
harsher on Naiad than I did, like on Naiad the character, and I was
yeah.
much more like, I just feel like that was part of what they wanted to do for her. Felt the same way in
Right.
this.
Um but yeah, every time I feel like her character took like a step forward with me, she took like two steps back. Where I was like, can you just be like not like an asshole or
Hmm.
like, you know,
But
and I
didn't
thought
didn't that? I mean, we can kind of transition to the finale though. Like,
right.
didn't the ultimate reveal of what happened in her life kind of like make that stuff
Soften
make
me
a
up a
little
little
bit,
bit.
yeah, soften you up,
Yeah.
but also like kind of make a little bit more sense of like how she feels
Yeah, I
about
get
certain things.
yeah, I mean that definitely made me understand why she was the way with her stepdaughter who
Yeah.
this week I now know that it's her stepdaughter. Again, I don't know if they must have said it at some point where I just
I
missed it.
having rewatched it, they did say it
Okay,
in like,
so
yeah.
apologies. Okay, because there's that whole thing where it's like she's sleeping with all these people
Hmm.
apparently, and so maybe she
I loved that part too.
had a
I
kid at
I
one
loved
point,
all that. Yeah.
or another kid obviously, or it's from a previous marriage, whatever. Um, and so I do understand why she was that way with her. So that did make sense to me. And I thought Jodie Foster, when she is going back and forth, when they're sitting around the campfire,
Yeah.
and
In the finale,
in the finale. Yeah, and
I
oh
would
my
say
god, why
just
can't I?
from here on out, full
Yeah,
spoilers for True Detective Night Country finale. We'll say.
okay.
Yeah.
And
Let it rip.
when Navarro is talking about uh
Her son.
talking to her son when
Yeah.
she's having like one of her like kind of out of like experiences or whatever, and Jodie Foster like goes in on her about like do not bring my son who died into this and all that stuff. I thought that was like an amazing like scene
Yeah.
between the two of them. Um, but no, I get what you mean. That definitely helped a little bit where it's like you finally find out what happened. Can I tell you one thing though? So they've showed the scene. They showed the scene a few times where they pull up to like the murder suicide
Yeah. The
and
Wheeler's house.
yeah, so they pull up right, and it's in this last episode, and they uh, they obviously Navarro shoots him, and then you hear the baby, and I was like, "Oh my God, is that her daughter now?" That's what I thought.
I
Because
did have that thought for a second, but then I was like, "Oh no, I guess they already explained it." But I did think that too. I had for a
that I
split
thought would have
second.
been like that's something they could have totally done, where it's like, let me make up for, not, do I feel like a guilt that my son died in this crash? Like, let me make up for that, and I'll take care of this kid, And that was just something that went through my mind. I was like, holy shit! Like,
Yeah,
if they go
that
through
would've been
that, like, you
crazy.
totally got me.
Yeah,
But that's obviously they didn't do that.
yeah.
But that was, yeah.
I
I
do
was
think they
like,
could have
holy
gone that way
crap!
though. Yeah, you would have to like totally
Right,
restructure stuff, but
right.
um, yeah, that thought did cross my mind. Man, how did you feel like everything wrapped up? I mean, like, what were your overall thoughts on the finale itself, and specifically, like how the Annie case wrapped up, how
Mhm.
they went up to like the cleaning women and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And again, having watched all of it yesterday, and particularly those first two episodes over again, um, the very first scene of the show is Navarro going and talking to the two cleaning ladies,
Mhm.
right after it
Yes,
happened.
right. Yep.
So very very interesting. But
Yeah.
what were your thoughts on all that? And do you believe
Yeah.
them because they kind of do that whole like, well, that's maybe what would have happened, but I won't say.
Oh, about how like they like took them in the middle of nowhere and they let them go and they're like, we put their clothes like
Yeah, and
but
she was like, but that's just a story. Like, what were your
right.
thoughts on all that? And then what are your thoughts on what is the deal with Navarro? Is she gone? Did she walk out
Yeah.
onto the ice literally like her sister did, or did she go away from Ennis and start her life over again? Also, another character,
Um
if you want to work your way into there, what your thoughts on? I thought Fiona Shaw as Rose was really really great in this
oh,
season as
I
well. Yeah.
agreed. Um yeah, I think I did believe the story. It felt, I saw a tweet that was like, it felt very Twin Peaks, and I was like, yeah, I could
Yeah.
definitely see like that whole thing feeling very Twin Peaks on top of the supernatural element, and I really think that's what it is. I really think there is this just kind of spirit entity that is in that area,
Hmm.
um, that did these things. You know, we see it multiple times, and I don't know about you, those like little jump scares that they did. Though because I get scared very easily. I saw people like, do people really think that this gets anybody anymore? It gets me all the time. So apologies, that those are still in
There
there
was definitely some jump
for
scares that
people like
got me
me.
for sure.
Um, but I did enjoy that aspect of it. And just a real quick question.
Yeah.
So the spirit, right?
Mhm.
So Annie K was the one who got murdered by the well, yeah, by the
Well,
scientists, right?
every time. All right,
Let-
I'm gonna
let-
hit you with a sentence. Is that what
okay,
happened? Is
that
that what
that
actually
scientists killed
happened?
her.
Yes.
Yes, I think
Like, do we
what
believe Clark for his
yes,
work?
I do believe him. I
Okay.
believe him. I believe that they killed. Then she like came back to life basically, and then he like suffocated her. I think that's what
Yeah.
happened. Um, so she died, but she's not the spirit, correct? Am I correct in saying that?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Like, because I feel like I thought they kept saying her mom. So I was like, is her mom the spirit?
It was that her mom. Well, the first thing that Rose says about Travis is she goes, "Well, people see people in Ennis all
Mhm.
the time."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then Navarro said that in her family specifically, it started with her mom, then it went to her sister, and then she
It's like
said,
this
and now
calling,
I'm
right?
seeing, yeah, and then she
Right.
said, now I'm getting the callings too. I'm seeing the stuff too. Um, so I think it's more just like the town itself. I think is the spirit, or
Hmm.
that it had. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I think it's maybe more so that, and that Annie K is just this like, if you want to say that it specifically is an actual real spirit like entity like of Annie K's ghost or something like that, I feel like it's just the entity manifests itself in whoever it needs to for you. So like
Right.
for Rose, she saw Travis even though he had already died. For Clark, he saw Annie K. So he just assumed that it was Annie K coming for them, but then we find out that it was actually, all the women of the town
Hmm.
coming for all of them. He just assumed that it was Annie K. But then you could also say, well, is the women coming for all the scientists? Is it that it was a supernatural spirit of Annie K coming for the scientists?
Yeah,
Or is
yeah.
it that what Annie K meant to the community was so powerful that her political spirit, her actual
Uh-huh.
societal spirit is what kind of rallied these women to go there, and it was just kind of more of a allegorical spirit. You know what I mean? That it was
Hmm.
like her spirit is what made the women go and attack the scientists. So it's like it's not a literal ghost spirit, but it's
Right.
her. They kind of did it in her honor. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah,
still
like
up for debate in my own head on whether it's a literal spirit or if it's just that she kind of galvanized them to
right,
do
because
it.
like that main cleaning woman, I thought at one point
She was
was
great too.
like,
Her like couple scenes that she had.
yeah, because I thought she maybe I remembered the line wrong, but I thought she was like again where I said, oh, we let him go, but like she took them. She didn't have to take them, but she chose to, and she keeps saying
Yes.
she.
Yeah.
So in my head, I'm like, okay, well, she's talking about her Annie K and like spirit form, or she's talking
Mhm.
about her mom, whichever one it was. But
Or are they just talking
um,
about the ice?
that's what I was thinking. Like
Yeah.
this, the town,
Yeah.
the town kind of whatever you
Or
like
her as in nature, as in Mother Nature.
or that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a
I
possibility.
just
So it's
love
kind of
how
up
many
to
options there
debate
are.
right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's honestly something that just got me more excited about than anything else is just I'm like, wow. And also there
Mhm.
was just not a wasted beat in this whole season. Like if the twist and shout playing in the very first episode coming back around in the finale,
Mhm.
the Ferris Bueller clip stuck on the TV, um just totally total little things like starting with the scientists and then ending back there again and like just some of the twists and turns about going through the ice caves and then you come up and you're like, whoa, are they about to come up in the mining lab? And then
Mhm.
instead they come up in the science base and you're like, oh, what the fuck is going on? Like little stuff like that even really worked. And then obviously everything with Pryor, and the actor's name was Finn Bennett, um, who I thought that he was really, really good. And I don't think I've ever seen him in anything. Just looking at his
Yeah, he
stuff really
didn't
quick.
look
Yeah,
familiar
I've
to me.
never seen him in anything. But he was really, really good in this. As was John Hawkes as Hank Pryor. I thought that he was really
Mhm.
good too. And very interesting stuff with his like mail order bride and stuff, and then not coming, and you're kind of like,
That just
where's he
you
going
know,
with it?
that was one of those things where I was like that just didn't for me. I was like, does it really need to be in the show? Like, I get it's kind of like this, like he's longing for a new love and stuff like that,
Hmm.
but I'm just kind of like, it just doesn't go anywhere. It just like ends, and it's like, okay, now what? Like,
Yeah, I thought I loved it though. I just
yeah,
thought I just thought it worked because it's just like it's just going to further build this thing of like, especially with when you find out where his loyalties actually lie and who he's actually working for and stuff.
hmm,
I think it just helped to broaden the tapestry of this is a lonely guy who is looking for a North Star. Not to quote Daredevil, but
hmm,
like he is in that like
hmm,
bullseye thing of like, you know, is this really what he wants to be doing? Maybe not, but it's giving him purpose in life. And it's like this is a guy looking for purpose, and he thought that his
hmm.
purpose was going to be this new love, and then she doesn't show up, and like it was kind of heartbreaking for me. And I said to myself, I said if the show goes sad with this, then I think he's not the villain. If he gets like angry and like starts lashing out about this, then I think he definitely is the villain. And then he got sad about it and he still was the villain. So I was like, you know what?
Hmm.
You fooled me. You went with you zigged when I thought you were gonna zag. So for me, honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I'm just an easy sell on a cool, nice looking prestige television show like this, but
Yeah,
there was a lot of zigs when I thought they were gonna zag, and every single one of them I think hit for me. Um, and like I said, I really want to say that I think that Callie Reese as Evangeline Navarro to come up as I believe she's an MMA fighter, right? Is that
Mm,
right?
I Something like that. One
Yeah,
of those.
either
Yeah.
MMA or whatever it might be. She's definitely a fighter of some kind, or a UFC or whatever. Um, to come into an acting role like this, uh, I really was like, I felt like she was kind of overacting in the first two episodes. But then almost as soon as the real emotion started hitting, you can see why she got cast. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I thought that really came through because for a while I went, man, Jodie Foster's so good. I wish they would have maybe gotten somebody a little higher caliber to play Navarro, but I feel so distant from that statement that I made. Now I'm just like, and it's particularly, at the end. Oh yeah, and then so let's close on this. So what do you actually think happened with Navarro? I mean, do you think that
I
she
think
actually, you know, did what her sister did and ended things, or do you
um
think, because she goes, I'll tell you one thing, I don't think you're gonna find her out there on the ice.
I
But
think
but
she's gone.
you think like
As
because then
in
like what Rose
somewhere
told
else.
her, Rose
Yeah.
said, I came to Alaska, I started all over. And she
Mhm.
says to Leah, I believe her stepdaughter, Navarro says to her, she's like, believe me, I think about, wanting to just go leave everything behind and just start over all the time. And I think
Mhm.
now that, you know, she's free of this, because she has that moment where she says to Liz, she goes, I'm freeing myself of Annie's case. She lives with you now. You can deal with all of
Mhm.
that. I think that as soon as she did that, and once her sister was gone, I think that she was ready to fully move on, uh, physically to a totally different place. And I think the only thing that would have kept her there was that relationship that she had with the restaurant owner.
Bar guy,
Yeah,
yeah.
with the bar guy. But I think even that at the end of the day, I think her want to just be able to lead her own life and live it however she wants to, I think like outweighed whatever sort of connection she had with that bar guy. Um, but I love that shot at the end, and when Jodie's giving that deposition at the end, um,
Mhm.
which is another huge callback to the first season, is them interviewing her and recording her for internal affairs. Um, when she says like where's Navarro, I don't know, it's hard to say. And then there's that shot of what almost seems like Navarro's spirit coming onto her porch. Some people are taking that as it's literally Navarro's spirit, that she literally died and now she's with Liz. I think I agree with you. I think where I'm at with it right now is that she just left. I think she just left Ennis
Yeah.
behind and went and started a whole new life, doing something simple or something like that. And I think that shot of her on the porch at the end was just meant to show that, her and Liz, unlike the first time around, ended things in a very good place. And I think that it's showing you that Liz feels that connection to Navarro every day. I think
Mhm.
that's mainly what it was. But
Yeah,
again, it's open to interpretation.
I just feel like if there's that theory of like, oh, she walked into the ice and never came back. I just feel like her character throughout the show does not support that, because she never seemed, to me at least, she has some tiny moments of weakness, but
Hmm.
overall she's a very strong person to deal with, you know, the two immediate deaths that she's gone through
Yeah.
with her mom and her sister. And her sister and her mom were also kind of coaxed by this, this voice, this haunting, whatever you want to call it,
And I
that,
think, oh yeah, sorry,
yeah,
continue.
that kind of led them to their death.
Hmm.
And I feel like she kind of beats that, especially in the last
I
episode.
was
So
just gonna say, I think the
yeah.
specific moment that she beats that is when she's walking out into the ice, but then when
Mhm.
Jody falls through, and you think that Jody's
Yeah.
gonna drown, and then she pulls her
Mhm.
out. I think that was her moment, not the moment in the finale where she's walking out on the ice. I think that's the spiritual. That's almost what Navarro sees herself as doing by leaving the town. But I think that the moment where she actually physically was just walking out into the sea, um, I think that was the moment that she would have, offed herself if it
Mhm.
wasn't for Liz drowning and her calling her back. So I think you're right. I think that's kind of that moment where she kind of beats it. She kind of breaks the cycle of,
Mhm.
seeing these visions and having these voices and stuff. But yeah, I mean, anything else you want to touch on? I really enjoyed it. I mean, for me, I would probably got to rewatch season 1, but I think it's to me, I think it's up there with season 1.
Yeah, I would definitely have to do a rewatch season 1 to
Yeah,
like actually judge. Definitely think it was just having watched season 2 recently. I definitely think it's better than season 2.
yeah,
Um, and
and it's
again, season
shorter.
3 I haven't seen, and shorter. Um, but yeah, maybe there's like I wouldn't change a whole lot probably about the show. I thought it was a really good season. Hope they get a chance to do more, whether it's with Issa Lopez or somebody else. Now I don't want it to be Nick Pizzolatto. I don't want him to come back anymore.
Yeah,
He's an asshole apparently.
I guess.
So no,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's just very weird. I don't know.
Very
That's just
very
like
odd. Just
out of
it's
nowhere.
very odd to see somebody like who worked on this show, did 3 seasons, wrote 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Just like doesn't want to come back. So the HBO goes, okay, somebody else do it. Issa Lopez does it, and he just like shits all over it. It's like, well, it's not what I would have done. Well, it's like, well, you had a chance to do it, you chose not to. So like, I don't know what you're complaining about.
Yeah.
Again, have we seen season 2? Have we seen the Jake Gyllenhaal remake movie from 2021? Okay, don't get me wrong, he wrote a great season 1. Season 2, not great.
Mm-hmm.
Season 3, again, I don't know. Somebody enlighten me. I haven't seen it, so
Yeah.
But yeah, just a weird thing to do, and I don't know.
Very odd.
We'll see. Hopefully, hopefully, we see more from Issa Lopez in the future.
And also, I hope we see more from Issa Lopez. I hope we see more from Callie Reese, and I hope we see more from Jodie Foster.
Foster.
I was just looking at her IMDb. I mean, dude, it's
see the Mauritanian. There it is.
True Detective, Naiad, the Mauritanian, Hotel Artemis. We're already 6 years ago at this point. Scorsese's Women, which is not a movie, it's like a short. Elysium, which is 11 years ago. Some of these like straight to DVD movies, and then Nim's Island with her and Abigail Breslin that I remember coming out, and I remember seeing that. I love that movie, but like, where's she been? Like what? Like, and then Panic Room is 2002. That's 22 years ago. I mean, but now she's got this amazing Oscar nominated. Any other year, if Divine Joy Randolph wasn't in contention, I think that her work in Naiad is worthy of an Oscar. So glad that she got the nomination. And then, honestly, her work in True Detective, I think, is Emmy worthy. I just hope that she. I hope that she comes back and does stuff like that. I would love to get a Jodie Foster movie and a Jodie Foster show once a year. Like, I just think she was so good in this. And I'm like, man, I just kind of want to dive into Jodie Foster stuff. And I just feel like there's not that much. I mean, obviously there's a ton of stuff, but like, I just hope that she does a lot more. I hope that this is a sign that she's kind of coming out of a kind of a more a lessened workflow. You know what I mean? I hope that this is a sign that she's going to be in a lot of stuff coming up. But guys, what are your thoughts on True Detective?
Well, one quick question, actually, one last True Detective related. If you were to get like another season, is there like a duo that you think you would really like? If you could think of one.
Do you have one?
No, that's why I'm asking you. Actually, I think I had one like the other day, but I don't remember it.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay. All right.
This is real, okay? This is my genuine pick.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think whether it's Sam Elliott, Patrick Wilson, John Hamm, people that really have thrived, Martin Freeman, people that really have thrived in the Fargo dimension, I think is a good indicator of somebody that could work in a True Detective season. So here's my pick. You ready? And I mean this genuinely. And it would be a shrinking level, holy shit, this guy needs an Emmy. I'm going Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Harrison Ford.
I was just thinking Harrison Ford.
He was the first one I got. And then I looked down and I saw my Hera Funko Pop. And I went, ooh, Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Harrison Ford. I think maybe it's even a father-daughter. Maybe it's even a father-daughter detectives.
Yeah. That could be cool, yeah.
And I would want to see it in like Arizona. Like I would want to see it made like some center state, almost the opposite of Alaska. You know what I mean? I would want to see it in this nice like arid desert like, you know, kind of vibe like that. But that's who I would pick if I'm just going right off the top of my head. That's who I would go with. Is Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Harrison Ford.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could get Harrison Ford because of all these other shows he's doing.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, you'd have to really offer him. But I just think that Harrison Ford. Like, imagine, like, the fugitive Harrison Ford in a True Detective show. You know what I mean? Like, that, well, man, just saying that, that's like, dude. Like, he could really bring that, you know, just pathos, crying. And anytime Harrison Ford cries, that's like, all right, I'm sold. But yeah, honestly, I feel like that's a pretty good pick for off the top of my head. But honestly, the very first person I went to was Harrison Ford. I was like, that. I think he would be really, really good. And Harrison Ford in, like, an HBO drama miniseries? Forget it, dude. That's, oh my god, that would be awesome. Well, guys, let us know. Who would you want to see in a potential True Detective season 5? Who would you want to see be paired up? Maybe we go back to one main detective like we did with season 3 with Mahershala Ali.
I will actually real say, if I had one real quick, I would like to see Oscar Isaac in a show like this.
Oh yeah, I think you could. I think if you wanted to abandon the father-daughter thing, I think Oscar Isaac and Mary Elizabeth Winstead would be a really good pairing. But Oscar Isaac's a really good call for sure. Yeah, guys, let us know who would you want to see in another season in True Detective. What are your thoughts on True Detective season 4? If you haven't watched it yet, are you gonna watch it? I think it's a huge recommend from me. I think TJ, would you recommend it as well? Yeah, I think so as well. I really, really liked it. I know a lot of the internet is in disagreement with us on that, but I say particularly a lot of the internet, because clearly the show's been very popular with viewership. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I'm so glad that I took the time to just watch it all together, because it just felt like one humongous movie that, and I mean that in a great way. Even though it was kind of such a slow burn for a lot of those middle episodes, I think that it just lent itself to slow pressure building and just ratcheting up tensions and stuff. And again, I just think some of Jodie Foster's best work in a very long time, in a year where she already just gave one of her best performances in a very long time. So really, really like that. Other than that, guys, that'll do it for this show today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you guys so much to everybody who chatted, just like last week. Really, really appreciate that. Share this with a friend. And that'll do it for me. I've been one of your hosts, Sean Monk.
I've been your host, TJ Cornwell. Thank you for watching. Please follow us on all social medias, Twitter and TikTok and Instagram. And we will see you next time.
Boom.